All right, so get ready for this deep dive because we're going to be exploring how your stomach actually plays a role in your liver health.
It's fascinating.
I know, right? It all comes down to this thing called Piezo1.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing how your stomach can actually sense what's going on inside.
Exactly. And that's what we're going to be diving into today.
Looking at some brand new research.
Yeah, from Science Signaling.
Really cutting edge stuff.
They found that this mechanosensor in your stomach, this Piezo1, actually affects how much fat your liver stores.
It really does. And the key here is ghrelin,
Ghrelin. Yep, we all know ghrelin.
the hunger hormone.
It's produced in your stomach, tells your brain when you're hungry.
Helps manage your body weight.
But here's the thing. It looks like ghrelin is also telling your liver to store fat.
That's right. And Piezo1 actually puts the brakes on ghrelin.
Okay.
So picture this. Your stomach stretches after a meal, right?
Right.
That stretching, it activates Piezo1,
Okay.
which then signals those cells that produce ghrelin to kind of ease up. Like, hey, we're good here.
Interesting.
No need to make more ghrelin.
So less ghrelin, fewer signals to the liver to store fat.
Exactly.
Makes sense, but how did the researchers actually figure this out? They used mice, right?
Yeah, they did. They bred mice without the Piezo1 gene in their ghrelin-producing cells.
Okay.
And guess what?
What?
Even on a normal diet, those mice ended up developing fatty livers.
Wow, so even without overeating.
Just because that stomach wasn't sensing that fullness
Yeah.
and controlling the ghrelin.
Their livers were storing excess fat.
Isn't that wild?
That's crazy.
And they also did another experiment,
Okay.
a really clever one, where they put this tiny bead in the stomachs of regular mice.
Wait, like a little marble in their stomach? Why would they do that?
It was to create like this gentle, constant pressure.
Mm.
And you know what? That pressure, it activated Piezo1, ghrelin production went down, and those mice were protected from fatty livers,
Even
even when they were fed a high-fat diet.
So it's like the bead tricked the stomach into thinking it was full.
That's a good way to put it, yeah.
So Piezo1 sounds like a secret weapon against fatty liver disease.
It really does.
But let's get down to what matters here. What does this all mean for us, the listener?
Well, this research was in mice,
Right.
but it opens up this whole new way of thinking about how we might approach fatty liver disease in humans.
Okay.
I mean, if we could find a safe way to activate Piezo1,
Yeah.
think of the possibilities.
No stomach beads, hopefully?
No stomach beads for us.
But maybe medications, other therapies that can kind of create that same effect.
Exactly.
Now, you mentioned AMPK earlier.
I did.
Can you break that down for us a little bit? How does it fit into all of this?
So think of AMPK like this tiny fuel gauge inside your cells.
Okay.
It's constantly monitoring energy levels and telling your body when to burn fat.
So it's like our personal trainer.
Yeah, keeping us lean and mean.
Exactly. But here's where it gets interesting. The study found that excess ghrelin actually suppresses AMPK activity in the liver. Hold on. So not only is ghrelin telling the liver to store fat, it's also telling the body to, stop burning fat.
That's right, a double whammy.
That's a double whammy.
And it shows just how complex this whole system is.
Yeah.
We're only just starting to understand.
It makes you realize just how much is going on inside us, even when we're just, eating.
It really does.
But it also sounds like messing with ghrelin could be tricky, right? It's not as simple as just less ghrelin equals healthier liver.
You've hit the nail on the head. It's all about balance.
Right.
We need to understand the bigger picture because ghrelin has other roles in the body too.
Like how it can actually protect the liver from damage.
Exactly. So we can't just focus on suppressing it without potentially causing other problems.
Right, right.
It's complicated.
So what are your thoughts on that?
Well, that's a great question, and it's actually what we're going to be diving into in the next part of our deep dive.
Okay.
Looking forward to that. There are definitely trade-offs to consider when we start manipulating these complex systems. You got to be careful.
All right. Sounds good.
Yeah. It's definitely more complicated than we think.
It really makes you appreciate just how complex the human body is.
It does. We're just scratching the surface.
And speaking of scratching the surface, I'm curious to hear what stood out to you, the listener, from what we've talked about so far.
Yeah. What are you pondering?
Was it that bead experiment? Or the fact that your stomach can actually sense pressure and then use that information to, regulate hormones? Hit us up on social media and let us know.
I'd love to hear what you're thinking about.
Me too. But while you're doing that, I want to go back to something that really caught my eye in the research, the potential long-term implications of manipulating Piezo1.
Oh, yeah. That's a big one. You can't forget that ghrelin has all these other effects in the body.
Right. beyond just hunger and fat storage.
Exactly.
And like you mentioned earlier, it can even protect the liver.
Certain situations.
Right.
So if we're thinking about therapies that target Piezo1 to control Ghrelin,
Yeah.
we have to be really careful. We don't want to fix one problem and create a new one.
So it's not as simple as like flipping a switch, right?
Nope.
It's about understanding all these nuances and the timing.
And finding that sweet spot.
Where we can get the benefits but minimize any downsides.
It's a balancing act for sure.
A delicate balancing act.
Exactly. It's going to take a lot more research to really understand how all these systems work together.
Before we can even think about using this knowledge to, help people.
That's right.
Which makes me wonder, are there other ways to tap into this Piezo1 Ghrelin connection? I mean, beyond medications or beads, of course.
That's a great question.
Like, could lifestyle changes play a role?
Well, it's still early days, but there is a chance that some lifestyle things could influence Piezo1 activity.
Okay.
Think about the foods we eat.
Okay.
Foods that are high in fiber, they create more bulk in the stomach, right?
Yeah.
So that could potentially stimulate those mechanosensors.
So maybe loading up on veggies could help keep Ghrelin in check.
Possibly. Yeah, it's something to look into.
I like where this is going.
And then there are things like mindful eating.
Oh.
Slowing down, paying attention to when you're full.
Right. Being more in tune with our bodies.
Exactly. And that might help us influence Ghrelin in a good way.
It all comes back to that mind-body connection.
It does.
It's incredible to think that just changing how we eat could have such a big impact on our metabolic health.
It really highlights the power we have to influence our well-being.
Yeah.
It's not all out of our control.
But let's be real for a second. Not all of us are going to become, like, health nuts overnight.
Girl.
So while we're working on those lifestyle changes,
Yeah.
What about medications? Are there any drugs in development that could target this pathway?
Definitely a lot of interest in that area.
Okay.
Researchers are looking into compounds that could activate Piezo1 directly.
It's like mimicking the effect of the bead.
Exactly.
Okay.
Others are focusing on blocking the effects of too much Ghrelin.
On the liver.
Yeah, so lots of different approaches being explored.
It's reassuring to hear that there are multiple angles.
Definitely.
But I imagine with any new drug development, it'll be important to move carefully.
Absolutely. Safety first.
Making sure any potential treatments are both safe and effective long-term.
That's where clinical trials come in.
Right.
It takes time to do things right.
Yeah, you don't want to rush it.
But the early research is promising.
That's good to hear.
Gives us hope for the future.
Okay, so as much as I hate to interrupt this conversation, we're about to hit our time limit for this part of the deep dive.
Time flies when you're having fun with science.
It really does. But before we move on, let's just do a quick recap of what we've learned so far.
Good idea.
All right, so we started by talking about Ghrelin,
It's a good place to start.
acknowledging that it can signal fat storage, but it also protects the liver.
A bit of a double-edged sword.
And then we shifted gears to discuss potential lifestyle changes.
Like eating more fiber.
And practicing mindful eating.
To influence Piezo1 and Ghrelin.
And lastly, we touched on the drug research.
Scientists working hard to develop medications that could activate Piezo1 or block the negative effects of Ghrelin.
Yeah, it's really exciting stuff.
It is a lot to look forward to.
Okay, so we've covered a lot, but we're not done yet.
Not even close.
There's so much more to explore.
Absolutely.
And that's what we'll be doing in the final part of this deep dive.
Can't wait.
We'll be looking at some of the broader implications of this research,
The big picture.
what it means for metabolic health, and the future of personalized medicine.
Should be a good one.
All right, stay tuned. Okay, so we've talked about stomach sensors, Ghrelin, AMPK, all this stuff. But what's the big picture? What does all this research really mean for, the future of metabolic health?
Well, it's pretty exciting when you think about it.
Yeah.
It opens up this whole new world of personalized medicine. Imagine, being able to test someone's Piezo1 activity.
Right.
And then using that information to create a treatment plan just for them.
So instead of this one-size-fits-all approach,
Yeah.
we could have these individualized strategies.
Exactly.
That's amazing. But how would that actually work?
Okay, let's say someone has low Piezo1 activity.
Okay.
We might recommend lifestyle changes,
Right.
increasing their fiber intake,
Oh, yeah, we talked about that.
or practicing mindful eating.
Okay.
Things that could naturally boost that activity.
And for people who need a little extra help,
Right.
maybe medications that target Piezo1 directly.
Exactly.
So many new options.
And it goes beyond just fatty liver disease,
Right.
Ghrelin affects blood sugar, energy balance, even your heart.
Wow.
So figuring out how to work with this system
Yeah.
could have huge implications for everyone's health.
It really shows how everything is connected.
It does.
Like all these systems in our body working together.
Yeah, it's like a puzzle. Every new piece helps us see the bigger picture.
And then make better choices.
Exactly.
This whole deep dive has been a real journey,
It has.
starting with this simple idea of a pressure sensor.
And now look at us.
Talking about personalized medicine.
It's amazing what curiosity can lead to.
It really is. And even if you're not planning to put a bead in your stomach anytime soon.
Don't do that.
I think the takeaway here is that your body is a system.
It is a complex one.
And what happens in one part affects everything else.
Like a domino effect.
Yeah, so even small changes
Can make a big difference.
It's a powerful message.
It is.
It means we have more control over our health than we think.
Absolutely. Every choice matters.
So well said.
Thank you.
All right, I think it's time to wrap up this deep dive.
Sad to see it end.
But the conversation doesn't have to stop here.
Keep it going.
We want to hear your thoughts, your questions, any aha moments you had.
Share them with us.
Hit us up on social media, leave a comment on our website, or just talk about it with your friends and family.
Yeah, spread the knowledge.
Until next time, this has been the Deep Dive